Welcome again to the show. Everybody's talking about exciting Episcopalians, and we got a great one for you this week. We got Lynne Gammons here. First of all, is it Gammons with an S or Gammon with a C?
There is no S.
You're a singular Gammon, so
Correct.
spell it right on the Christmas cards.
That's
What's
right.
the percentage of people spell that wrong? What, 20, 30%?
No, about 1.
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Okay, well, gotta do better. Well, Lynne, where are you from? Where were you born and where were you brought up? And what was your girlhood like and what did you like to do as a kid?
Okay, I grew up in Millinocket, Maine, and
There's only one.
That's right.
There's not going to be Millinocket, Pennsylvania, I don't think. What's that mean, by the way?
What does it mean?
Millinocket.
Oh, I was hoping
Land
you
of
wouldn't.
many eels or something. Okay.
Maybe, yeah. I grew up. I was born in 1958.
Oh, that's right.
So I grew up in the 60s in Millinocket.
Yep.
It was a good place to grow up. A small town. I'm the youngest of 5.
Really?
Yeah.
Did your dad work in the woods? Did he work at the mill?
My dad worked in the mill, but not until later in life, because he was a grocery storeman.
Oh.
Actually, you know what? I need to backtrack. He worked at the mill early on,
Yeah.
and then he went to work for my uncle owned a grocery store.
Yeah.
And
Was it an IGA?
No, they were the competition.
Oh,
no.
I hate them, yeah.
No, it was the red and white.
Oh, the red
And
and white.
there were 2. There was one in Millinocket and one in East Millinocket.
Yeah.
And my uncle John got my dad to manage the one in East Millinocket and my uncle to manage the one in Millinocket. And so they operated the grocery stores until he retired, and then he went to work not part-time, he went to work after at the mill
Yep.
in his retirement. Yeah.
But the Millinocket and East Millinocket in the 60s were booming. Millinocket, Stearns came down and played Bangor. And not only were they New England champions of basketball, they had 100 kids in their band.
Yeah, yeah.
People can't believe that today.
The arts programs were really, really good.
Really?
Yeah, as
Is
well.
that where you think you got your start, maybe?
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, they had music at a very young age, and I took music all through and theater. And they had a really wonderful recreation program, too, the summer recs. We'd all go to the playgrounds.
Sure.
Yeah.
We did too in Bangor.
Yeah.
I know what you
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah.
It's probably why I identify with you a little bit.
Yeah.
So, where'd you go to college?
I went to USM.
What'd you major in?
My major was communication.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You communicate very well. So.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to get into broadcasting, but what I didn't realize was that the communication program down here was more focused towards other kinds of communication, not broadcast, so which was fine. So I ended up focusing in business communication, and with the idea of maybe getting into personnel. So that's what I did.
What were some of your early grown-up jobs?
Oh, my very first job was on Broadway in Bangor at Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh my goodness.
And later on, I moved right next door to McDonald's. And then...
Did we work together at McDonald's?
No.
Okay, I worked at the McDonald's.
No, yeah.
Did you have a
And...
little overseas cap on? Or? No, okay.
No, I don't think we had caps.
I had a little paper overseas cap, like
Yeah.
grab a bucket and mop,
Oh, I had those. I think I had that at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I bet
yeah,
you look
yeah.
great.
And then later I worked at Paul's Diner. Remember that? On the
sure
Hogan
do.
Road?
Paul Gervais, yeah.
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 So I worked there as well.
Wow. How are the tips?
Not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you kind of worked hard, worked your way through school, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you met Rick.
I met Rick at USM. Yeah.
And when did you get married?
We got married in 1978.
What day?
We were still in college.
Oh.
September 22nd.
1978.
Yeah.
The Red Sox were blowing a big lead. They'd been ahead, and that was the year they blew that big lead.
Yeah, I was a junior and he was a senior.
No kidding. Where'd you live after that?
We lived on Park Avenue in Portland.
Park Ave, right by Deering Oaks?
Right across from Deering Oaks. $35 a week was our rent.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Then we moved down the street to 252 Park Avenue, right across from Hadlock Field.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
Were those the days?
Those were the days.
Yeah. Well, you have a wonderful family, he said, as he looked at the picture of the family. We're jumping ahead 10 years.
Yeah.
I don't have my glasses on, but it's Jossie on the left and Andrea on the right.
Yes.
Lovely kids.
Thank you.
But you're raising 2 kids in the middle to late 80s and
Yep.
90s. And what are you doing for a living at that time?
Well, I was working part-time when Andrea was born, I went to work part-time at USM.
Yep.
And then I stopped working when Jocelyn was born and stayed home for several years. And then I went to work for Ed Daggett at Daggett and Parker Law Firm.
Sure.
And I was there for 17 or 18 years.
Did you have any other grown-up jobs that would be funny? That would make you an exciting Episcopalian?
No.
No, you did
just
administrative.
a lot of volunteer type stuff
Yeah.
in between, but no, I never.
Well, the
nothing
girls
funny.
are very musical, as is their mother, and arts-oriented, as are their parents.
Yep.
Talk to me a little bit about these little whippersnappers. I know they were in a pageant. They were in many pageants.
Yes. Yes, yeah. That is Jocelyn as the first sheep. The year
Wow.
that took place, I think she was 2. There were a group of us who took on the pageant, Eleanor Smith and Jenny Potoff and myself. And Jenny made all these costumes, which they're still being used today.
Yeah.
I think Jack was one this
You
year, wasn't he?
betcha.
Yeah.
Now, did Jenny do the art behind us?
Jenny did the art behind us,
Yeah.
and
She's a lovely, lovely, lovely person.
that came out of, I was on the worship commission, and Sharon Stevenson and I did a program on Advent where we did a lot of different things throughout Advent. But one of the things that we wanted to do was a big art project. And at that time, there was an art group that met. Polly Goss was working with them. Yep. And I suggested that maybe we make some banners and maybe Jenny could help them. Yeah. And so we approached Jenny and she was all, for it. But then she got to thinking about it and she thought, it would be hard to involve a lot of people in something like that. I'm just going to do it myself. And so she made those banners and we just love them. And I'm sure you know that they represent Back Cove.
Yes.
And that in Advent, and it's the darkness into the light. And I just thought she did a superb job. I was really pleased with that.
Yeah, she's a great person.
Yeah.
I've got to get to this shot of Jossie with Jonathan Smith.
Yes.
Joseph and Mary. That's
Yeah.
a rite of passage in this church.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah.
And you mentioned Eleanor Smith. We're here because when we visited checking out churches, Emily went down to kindergarten, Sunday school, came up holding hands with Dana Smith.
Yeah.
And we had a church for the next 30 years.
Yeah, they were great.
Now, you're a religious person.
I am a very spiritual person.
Okay.
I don't know.
But you at least cared enough to take EFM, which I never did.
I did, yeah.
What is EFM?
Education for Ministry.
Okay.
It's a 4-year program from Sewanee University in the Sewanee of the South.
Yep.
And it's the first 2 years are studying the Bible, and the second 2 years are the church, the evolution of the Episcopal Church.
Did you get anything out of that?
My favorite part of it was what they call theological reflection, where we would take Bible stories, passages, and relate them to events in our lives. And those were really meaningful. And, we had a wonderful group. The reason I took it was because Florence Henderson, who is in that picture.
Where is she?
Florence is next to Cindy McClellan.
Okay.
She was the mentor, and she kind of twisted my arm to take it. Yep. She got me involved in a lot of things, and she encouraged me to take it, and I'm so glad I did. It was a really great experience. And then while we were doing that, she talked me into being a lay reader as well. So
which you're still doing.
Yeah. So she was very influential in that.
How did you happen to come to Trinity, and who was your first friend at Trinity?
Okay. When Andrea was young, there was a program here called Gymboree, and I brought Andrea to it. It's an for toddlers and whatever. So that was my first introduction to the building. And then when Jocelyn was old enough to take Gymboree, I brought her as well. And at that point, Andrea was 4 and Jocelyn was almost 2. And Andrea was just talking a little bit about, just asking lots of questions. And I had thought it might be nice to get involved in a church. And so when I was with Jocelyn here at Jamboree, I started looking around, and there was a bulletin board out by the door with the survey results on it that they'd done for the parish, and I just started reading it, and I thought, just the answers. It seemed like there was a lot of commonality in the answers that people gave and the way I looked at things, and I said, I think I'll try it. So I went to the office, and at that time, Ruth Barnard was the secretary in there, and I started talking to her, and she took me around, showed me around, and explained to me about the Episcopal faith, because I was raised Catholic. And it just felt really warm and welcoming and a good fit. So I came. Well, we all came. And I think...
Who was in the pulpit?
At that time, it was interim. It was Roger Nichols.
Okay.
And I think that the survey was what they do when they're looking for, to call somebody. So I think that were those results. Anyway, so everybody was so friendly, and it just felt really good. We took the kids downstairs to the Sunday school, and Ruth Barnard was teaching the infant toddler program, so she recognized us. And then Andrea went into, Jane Sudds was teaching the kindergarten and the pre-kindergarten, and they loved it, and we never looked back.
Oh, wonderful. And there have been lots of good times. And your first friend?
We became very close with the Daggetts.
Yeah.
They joined about the same time. Yeah.
I don't remember this Hollywood costume party.
You don't? Well.
No, that's Barbara's Mae West.
Yeah, Barbara's Mae West, and Rick is Charlie Chaplin, and I was Isadora Duncan.
I love it.
And it was part of the parish life. We had, the parish life committee came out of the vestry, decided that we needed something. Yep. And at that time, it was Barb Daggett and Pam Cleghorn and Lois Johnson. And they decided to start this parish life committee. And it was wonderful. There were probably 12 or so of us. We met monthly, and we planned all kinds of different activities. We had a bunch of successful auctions that I think we had you as the MC for those. We did a lot of really wonderful stuff, and one of the things was a mystery night with a Hollywood theme, and we had a lot of fun.
You think here you and I are on a committee, I think we're planning what?
We were planning the retirement party for Betty.
Oh, Betty.
Yep.
But you do shy away a little bit from directing things, and you participate in everything. What does that say about you that we should all know?
That I like to be involved.
Yep.
But I don't necessarily like to lead everything.
Boss people around. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do. I've had some great things I've been involved with. I'm on the outreach committee now. I was on the worship committee.
Yep.
I was the organizer for the soup kitchen. That was another thing that Florence Haskell got me to do, things like that. So, and I taught Sunday school for years, which was really a good experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to ask you about rectors that you've known. Mm-hmm. So you started with the interim who?
Yeah, Roger Nichols.
Don't remember him.
And after him was David Holroyd.
Okay.
And then Larry.
Betty.
Oh, after Roger Nichols was Betty.
Right.
And then David, and then Larry.
Okay,
yes.
so you got one more than me and Roger. I didn't know him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Betty came shortly after we joined.
Okay. Yeah, she was nice.
Yeah.
Tell people about Betty.
Betty was great with the kids. Loved her. She would let the kids she showed them all the little secret places.
Yes.
And she had such a rapport with the kids.
She'd walk the kids around and let them go up the other stairs to the altar.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that Rick and I bought Betty's old house.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Now, the house you lived in off of Brighton Avenue.
Right.
Wasn't it like Lyman Moore?
It belonged to Lyseth, Mr. Lyseth.
Mr. Lyseth, okay.
And Betty bought it from his widow. And then what happened is we lived down the street in a smaller house, and we loved the street so much we wanted to buy a bigger house. And we looked at a couple, and one was a little too expensive, and then one we actually had a contract on, and then they backed out of it. And so we didn't know what we were going to do, and we're sitting in the pew one day, and Betty announces that she's getting married. And so Rick nudges me, and he goes, "Hey, maybe we can buy Betty's house." He says, "The Lord works in mysterious ways." And I started laughing, of course. But anyway, and at that time, Eric Herlin was our senior warden.
Yeah.
And he knew that we had wanted to find another house. So he kind of spoke to Betty and said, I think Lynn and Rick would enjoy that house. And so it worked out. It was great.
Oh, funny. How
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
And I'm going to jump ahead.
Okay.
You have sold that house too.
Jocelyn and her husband are living there, and their baby.
We'll get back to that in just
Yeah.
a minute. Now, Rick has been a big part of your life, family life, and Trinity life, and he did serve as senior warden.
Rick
I was on the vestry when he was senior warden.
Yeah, he was senior warden. He was treasurer for several years.
Did a great job as treasurer.
Yeah, he's done a lot. Yep.
Pretty good guy. Tell us about him.
He's I don't know. He's really good. He's helping to coordinate the Family Promise. He's helped out the Finance Committee. He's just multi-talented.
He can cook and write poetry.
He's a great cook, and he's a really good writer. He writes poetry. He's now writing songs. He taught himself to read music and to play the ukulele.
I was going to say, one of the things you guys do, you're in the Ukes.
Yeah.
What's the name of your group?
We are members of the Flukes.
The Flukes, excuse me. Yeah.
But we also started a group here at Trinity, which is called the TGs, and we meet sometimes. There are a few of us. We also run a group called the Portland Ukulele Social Club, which we meet monthly in Lincoln Hall. And that's a group of we have 240 on our mailing list, but we usually get about 40 people once a month.
I know that outreach is important to you, and right now you guys are steaming. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what's going on in outreach, especially about what's going on in the church.
Well, Family Promise is something that Rick and I coordinated that a couple years ago when it first started in Portland. Mm-hmm. And then the pandemic came, and so they changed their model. But they've recently readopted their original model, which is having families stay in churches for, at this point, it's 2 weeks, and then they rotate. And it's a way of helping asylum seekers who are unhoused get on their feet and get some help to hopefully find a place. They have very good caseworkers that help them to find places to live. They take English classes, finance classes, make sure that the kids are in school and make sure that they're housed and well fed, and it's a wonderful program. They've been very successful. So that's going on. The outreach is also involved in Laundry Love, which meets once a month at Wash Tub 2, which is a really successful program helping people get their laundry done. Rick and I just joined the board of St. Elizabeth's Essentials Pantry, nice. Which Trinity's been involved with through DIBY.
What does St. Elizabeth's do?
St. Elizabeth's provides things to the community that are not covered by food stamps. Things like diapers, feminine products, housing, household goods, bedding, pots and pans, things like that. It's a really great program that Peter was involved in starting 20 years ago.
Oh,
yeah.
Just 20 years. I would have thought it was even older than that because I
believe it's 20.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the other side of Lynn. Rather than sitting in a vestry meeting, you'd rather be at Wash Tub 2, Family Promise, St. Elizabeth's, hands-on outreach work for you.
I would much rather be doing that than talking about finances. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. My daughter Emily was on the vestry for you and
I know
it
that.
almost killed her.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. But, And here's your family today.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Thank you.
Lovely. Who are
Yeah.
these guys that showed up?
Okay, that Jocelyn's husband is Justin, and
And
he's
that's on
from
the left.
Kansas. Yep.
Kansas.
Yeah, and Andrea's husband is James, and he's from England.
Yep.
And this was taken this summer out in the Trinity Garden. And we had a party for Rick, 65th birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Jossie lives here, and she's holding a child.
She is, yes, holding a child.
Yeah. Does the child? Did they name the child, or they just walk away with it? And what's her last name?
Jocelyn's last name is Gammon.
Yeah.
Justin's last name is Anselmi,
Okay.
and the baby is Mars.
Mars.
And
All
her
right, we
name
love
is
that
Anselmi.
little kid.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And where's Andrea these days?
Andrea lives in Rotterdam in the Netherlands.
Oh my
She's
gosh.
been there for almost 10 years. She moved there in May of 2013.
Wow.
Yeah,
Think of it. Those little kids,
I know.
crawling down the aisle as sheep.
they
And the
they
next
had a
thing you know-
wonderful upbringing here in Trinity, and they've mentioned that. you
Really?
know. Yeah,
How did they like the fact that they were churched?
they do. They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They're very musical. They love traditional music and the church music and
And Jossie sang here at Christmas
yeah.
year after year after year
Yeah,
after year. We
yeah,
should get
and
her
Andrea
back.
did too. They
Andy,
both.
yeah. And they're big time talents. I mean, they're not like, oh, they sing okay. They're big time talents.
Well, thank you, thanks. They sang with Stuart Schuster, who was one of our choir directors for many years.
Yeah.
He had a Southern Maine boys and girls chorale, and they sang with him, and I think he gave them a really good foundation of traditional and classical music, and yeah.
Solid musician. and
Yeah,
teacher,
yeah, so.
Anything we need to change around here at Trinity?
I think we're going in great directions.
We are a little bit better.
I think that there's a lot of good energy here, and I think that things are going well. I'm really pleased with the amount of outreach that we're doing.
Good.
Yeah,
Good. Well, thank you for all that you do. You're a wonderful
thank you.
Parishioner and friend and person, and I'm delighted to know you. And
Thank you.
I am thrilled that you helped boost this show. Is it exciting? It's exciting Episcopalians. There's only one place to get it, right here on Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate your joining us today to learn a little bit more about Lynne Gammon. But if you're around her, you're going to have to do some work, so be careful. And we hope that you'll join us next week to meet another exciting Episcopalian.